Well, hi, everybody from the Beer Club at Vintage Cellars. Welcome to another one of our, episodes would be the right word. We got Ryan on the horn from Upslope Brewing Company in Boulder, Colorado. Is that right?
That is correct.
Boulder, Colorado, and we got a bunch of beers for you this month, but we're only going to taste 5 of them, and there's 8 total, and the other 3, Ryan assures me, are equally as good. We just don't want to bore you guys for too long. So. I think Ryan and I have talked, obviously, and he knows kind of the shtick. We like to talk about how the hell you got in the beer business, number one, and then kind of the story of the brewery. And I did some research on it. It seems like a really cool brewery story. So let's just start out with you, Ryan. What's your story? How'd you get into this world?
Starting off with me getting into this world, it was funny. I was in college and I was in the process of going through getting a bachelor's degree in hospitality management with the intent on going in and doing culinary and becoming a chef and all this. And well, one of the courses that I was a part of was this beer and beverage management class. And we ended up going to this little brew pub up in Marquette, Michigan, where I went to school. And I just fell in love with the process, with the different beers, the flavors, the styles, and really just started to indulge a little bit more in the craft beer world. And then I had this great opportunity with a large scale restaurant chain, Old Chicago, exactly, to be exact. They were the ones that moved me out here to Colorado, and I was a manager for quite some time. I actually spent about 10 years as a restaurant manager. And then 6 years ago, I jumped over to the distribution side, and 4 years ago came on over to Upslope. And in those last 6 years, I have been fortunate enough to actually sell Upslope. But that's kind of the quick skinny on how I got into the beer world. And I did a little bit of home brewing, which even made my interest peak even more in this area. So that's kind of what got me into it. And right now I'm the regional sales manager here at Upslope Brewing. So I oversee the Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Nebraska markets, predominantly that Rocky Mountain North area. So I oversee an amazing team of sales reps here in Colorado, and then I work with closely with our Wyoming and Montana and Nebraska distributor partners.
Nice. So we talked about Montana and Colorado are kind of sister people or sister states to me. Like we have kind of the same values, kind of that Rocky Mountain front, obviously everything. And one of the things I noticed on your website was the original founders are really into fishing, and we have one of the best rivers in all the world. People fly here from all over to fish in Missouri, running right through our town. And then we have the Rocky Mountain Glacier Park, within an hour and a half drive of us. So it feels like we're kind of kindred spirits. So tell us about the founders a little bit and the story of Upslope, if you would.
Yeah. So our 3 founders, you got Matt, Danny, and Henry, all have had a love of the outdoors. And all are transplants from elsewhere here to Colorado. Matt's originally from Cleveland. He was working here at IBM and doing a little bit of home brewing and sampled it out to a couple of his friends who really enjoyed it. And then he spent about 4 or 5 years working on a business plan to open up a brewery. He actually met Danny Page, who is originally from Argentina, who was running the show at Beagle Brewing down at the southernmost point in Argentina. They met at that point in time, like online chat rooms. And this happened to be one that was around brewing and beer. And so they came up, met together at a coffee shop, absolutely had a great time connecting, and decided to get together. And a close personal friend of them was Henry Wood, who is from Georgia. He was out here, and at that point in time, he was doing some Knowles instruction. He's been in Jackson, he's been in Lander, Wyoming, and he had recently moved in here to Colorado, and they all met, partnered up, and magic happened. Here we are with Upslope Brewing 13 years later. So we were founded in 2008. Obviously, we are a very outdoor activity driven company, totally packaged in cans and then with draft. So the pack it in, pack it out, easy access, carried up. We've got a couple of pictures of folks up on our 14ers here in the state. mountains throughout the country. We even have one pick of somebody brought us up to Everest a handful of months ago. So very cool type stuff like that.
It's also,
And then, go ahead.
The name Upslope is familiar to Montanans too.
Yeah, so it's Upslope is a weather phenomenon where you just get dumped on with snow. And what it is you've got a cold front, cold, dry winds coming from the north, moist, warmer winds coming from the south, and they just kind of slam together over the Rocky Mountains and just dumps this beautiful, amazing snow on us. So very excited, and that's essentially where the name came from. And as we get to look out our wonderful windows here, we've got this beautiful view of the Flatirons down here in Boulder.
Yeah, we have Chinooks up in Montana, especially in our neck of the woods, and that's when you can go from 30 below to 30 above in 24 hours or something. So we're familiar with kind of that whole weather pattern too. It's fun. I love the name. I love the story. I think it's fun. You guys also do a lot of charity work or whatever with Trounce Unlimited and other organizations, it seems too, right?
Yeah, so we are very heavy in the donation and support of wildlife, of the environment. Sustainability is a big one for us. And I appreciate you bringing that up. So we are a certified B Corporation. And something like the quick, easy way about that is it is a voluntary certification to become a B Corporation. You're ranked based on volume of points. It has a lot to do with how you treat your employees and our benefit structure that we have in the building, how we work with sustainability and the environment, and then also how we work with our supplier partners, our distributor partners. And that's the quick, easy way of describing what a B Corp is. And we are a select few. We are one of 13 breweries in the United States, and we are one of 2 breweries in the state of Colorado that hold claim to being a part of a B Corporation. So we pride ourselves on that. We are part of the Conservation Alliance as well. We just joined that this year. And then the Trout Unlimited aspect. So 1% of our craft lager sales goes to Trout Unlimited in the state that we sell it to. So if we sell it here in the state of Colorado, it goes to the Colorado chapter. We sell it to the Montana distributor partners, and we send that money and that donation to the Montana state chapter of Trout Unlimited.
Yeah, that's fun. I think it's cool. Tell us about Boulder a little bit. I've been, but it's been years and years. It's a college town, and it's growing, and it's, what is it, between Denver and in the ski mountains, or where is Boulder again? I forget.
So we're about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, depends on traffic. Let's put it that way. Northwest of Denver. So if you were to go directly west from Denver, that would take you up 70 and on up into the mountains, into, Vail, Aspen, Breckenridge, all that. So yeah, we're about 35, 40 minutes northwest of Denver. And then neighbors to the north, about an hour from us, is Fort Collins, where the big guys here in Colorado live.
Which is what is it? What's the big one?
New Belgium and Odell.
Belgium, right?
Are up there. So one great thing, we do definitely are known. We're a top 10 brewery in the state of Colorado, in a state that's got over 400 breweries. So that's a pretty amazing testament to our beer and just overall with what we've done.
Cool.
But Boulder, yeah. So we're home to the University of Colorado. That's kind of the big thing here. And Mork and Mindy, if anybody knows who Mork and Mindy are.
Oh, I'm old enough. You aren't, by the way.
I grew up watching Mork and Mindy.
Only in reruns. There's no
only on reruns on Nick at Night.
Right, exactly. I watched it on network TV. That's how old I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So maybe we start on the brews, or you anything else you want to talk about as far as the brewery? I'm trying to think of some other fun things. You guys have a nice tasting room, I imagine. We always like to talk about if people are down in the Colorado area, they pop in and see you and say they're members of the Vintage Club, beer club, they'd probably get a little special treatment, right?
Absolutely. And you have my contact. So any of your folks that you send my way, just shoot me a message and we'll make sure they're taken care of. So nice. Yeah, right behind me is actually kind of our tap room here at Flatiron Park. So we actually have 2 breweries here in Boulder. One is is Flatiron Park, also known as just the park. And this is our production facility. So this is where we make all of our annual releases. So we have 5 year-round beers that we produce pretty much nonstop. We have 7 seasonals that we revolve through. And then we also do our spiked snow melt hard seltzer here as well. So all of that is done in this beautiful brewery that we do. We have a 30-barrel brew house, and we produced, I think last year was somewhere close to 45 to 50,000 barrels of beer. So quite a large chunk of production. And then our other facility is our Lee Hill facility. That is the original Upslope brewery. We started on a 7-barrel system up there. That is northwest of town. So if you were on your way up Highway 36 here in town, on your way up to like Lyons and Estes Park, where Rocky Mountain National Park is at, you'd drive right by it. So that facility is where we do a lot of our R&D. We do a lot of our barrel projects there. So the other 4 that we release to the general market is our Lee Hill series, claim to that name right there. But those are going to be more of those barrel-aged sours. We do right now, we just launched a barrel-aged old fashioned. So for any of your whiskey fans out there, it tastes just like an old fashioned. It's amazing. It's got the orange peel in there and everything, not in the beer, but brewed with it. But tastes fantastic.
Nice. I guess one last question: are all the owners, the founders, still involved in the business?
Yep, all the founders are still in the business. They're actually all here today, which is great too. So yeah, Matt Cutter being our founder, he's founder president, deals a lot with our, financing, conversations, kind of the face of the company. Henry Wood is our director of sales and marketing, so he is my direct manager. And then Danny Page is our director of brewing ops, so he oversees all the fun liquid that we get to enjoy here.
Cool. Well, let's move on to some beer tasting.
Okay.
I think you said this first one is the lager, the craft lager you wanted to.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So our craft lager, this is our #1 selling beer across all of our markets. It makes up about 40% of our beer production. And we started this in 2010, 2011, like right in that time frame. And that was shortly after we were going through a very large hop shortage. And it was right around that time when everybody was really starting to dive into the IPAs and producing a lot of IPAs. So we're like, hey, we need something light, easy that we can take on a backpacking trip, take fishing where we're not gonna, lose the fish once we hook it, or stab ourselves with a hook. So craft lager became just this product that was needed in this market. We're right down the road too from Coors, so bringing this out really had brought us onto that level of kind of that big game, big sales, became a big piece of our distribution and overall sales. But still, like I said, it's still our #1 selling beer. Absolutely love this. Clean, crisp, Saaz hops are in this. And as we spoke earlier, between lagers and pilsners, they're one of the most difficult beers to make because you really can't hide anything in there. But yeah, like I said, comes across really clean, crisp, easy, sessionable, and 1% for Rivers.
I know a lot about wine and have been learning a lot about beer. But lager is either what, bottom fermented or top fermented? I can't remember. Tell us about
it's going to be a cold fermented bottom feeding yeast.
And that means it has to be cleaner, and you have to be really careful with the process to keep it like you want it.
I probably shouldn't even answer that. I know enough about the brewing process, even being a home brewer. The guys upstairs would probably laugh at me. But essentially it takes a lot longer as well for a lager. That yeast species likes to feed off of those colder temperatures. If you start to crank the temperature up a little bit too high, you get a lot of weird, off, funky flavors from that yeast. Whereas an ale, you can ferment at warmer temperatures. It is a top feeding yeast.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot of those fun, fruity type, citrusy flavors, where with a lager, you don't necessarily want those.
Yeah, kind of, I think with Coors and Miller and AB and whatever, I think yeah, lagers get kind of a bad rap, and I think like you said, you can have 4 or 5 of them on the river and not, still be able to drive home.
Absolutely.
Kind of the point of that, in my opinion. Anyway, I don't know much about beer either. So.
It's okay. That's why we're here, right?
Exactly. We all learn. All right, let's move on to the Kolsch.
So the Kolsch is kind of a Kolsch. Here you go. Here's another yeast, right? So I'm throwing it at you. A Kolsch is a hybrid in some sense of a lager and an ale. You can actually ferment that at many of the temperatures in between both an ale and a lager. Kolsch started in Cologne, Germany, is where that initiated as a style. Ours is very much a twist, a heavy twist, because there's that German purity law that it's hops, malt, water, and yeast, right? Well, we've thrown in some Colorado honey and then sage. And obviously in the Rocky Mountains, you find a lot of sage. And this one started off as a seasonal for us, I think about 3 years ago. And it became just this perfect in between for those folks who maybe not necessarily wanted a lager, but also didn't want that hoppy beer. So this is a nice 5% sessionable in between.
Well, I can really see this with a lot of foods. I think a barbecued chicken, a grilled chicken on your deck would be amazing with this. I think
absolutely
some heavier cheeses, I think would be. I mean, that sage, it's not overbearing because I'm not a huge sage fan, but I think just a little tiny bit of it is good, right?
And you'd think, when you're adding honey into a beer, you'd come off awfully sweet. But what the honey tends to do is actually dries it out, because it gives the yeast more sugars to feed off of and really kind of helps dry the beers out with that honey.
Do you guys have a restaurant there, or any kind of a tasting room with food, or?
So yeah, actually, about a week and a half ago, we had a kitchen installed. They specialize in burgers, and it's actually a partnership with Lucky Pie. They're a pizza joint, but they wanted to do an offshoot of a burger location. So we actually do their burgers here in-house. So it's kind of a new concept for us, being able to serve our own food here at the brewery.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
And then we'll do, up at the Lee Hill location, it's just kind of bar, snacks, chips. I believe they moved our empanadas over that way.
Boy, a lamb empanada with that Kolsch would be awesome. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be awesome. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Might have to talk to the guys about that.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the hazy IPA. So we've been talking about hazy IPAs a lot in these interviews, and so we're a little familiar with kind of the concept behind it, but maybe your particular take on it would be fun to hear. You guys just.
Yeah. So, obviously hazies, they are the #1 selling style of IPA from the IPA family. They are created to be a little bit softer, more palatable, a little bit less on the hoppy, the IBU factor. So they are much more approachable to those folks who are looking to get into IPAs. Ours, we use a Kivik yeast, which is actually from Norway.
Nice.
And that
works out perfectly.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And it's fun. And what that yeast really does is it creates these fun citrus fruit notes. You can also ferment at a little bit higher temperature on that. Which just continues to create more and more of those juicy, citrusy components to it. So the current hops in this guy, and I had to write this down, we have Azaka, Simcoe, and Lotus. So very much some citrus, some kind of tropical stone fruits in there, and a little bit of that nice kind of old school piney type note to it from that Simcoe. And obviously everybody tries and samples beers differently, so I'm never one to tell you what you're about to taste, but those are kind of some of the things that I get specifically off of that.
And you guys grow your own hops, or Colorado is growing some hops, right?
So yeah, so on the western slope predominantly is where you're getting a lot of your Colorado hops. Predominantly ours are coming from the Pacific Northwest, as well as Australia, New Zealand as well.
And how's this selling for you, this hazy? Is it a good seller?
It's been doing it extremely well. Even with it just coming out back in December, we kind of missed the crazy increase in overall hazy sales, but we are doing extremely well. It's actually, if we look at it from a sales standpoint, and I'm just thinking data, it actually has the top rate of sale for all of our beers. So talking rate of sale, not to get too nerdy, but the number of distribution points that we have versus the number of sales on that, it actually has the best rate of sale across the board for us. That was pretty good.
Pretty nerdy.
Yeah. It is. That's what I do. I dig data analysis. I think that it sets us up as a sales team and being able to go and provide the best details for the market that we can.
No, I think it's fun. Yeah, I was just being funny.
I love it. No, I love it. I took no offense to it.
The IPA craze is still strong in the West, especially, or United States in general, or the world. Or tell us about the IPA craze. Is it kind of set a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the IPA craze across the board nationwide, it is still, like I said, that number one selling style of family. You are starting to see in some markets, you're starting to see some folks go back to that kind of clear, old school West Coast style IPA. But the hazy still seems to be the top of that sales level. But I enjoy our hazy, but I get wicked heartburn off of all hazy beers for whatever reason. So I'm a little bit of that old school West Coast style IPA.
Which is what we're going to next.
So the next one that we're going to is our original IPA. Also like to call this the Blue Angel. This was one of the original 2 beers that Upslope ever produced, and one that started in Matt's garage when he was doing his home brewing. It's grown and developed in many ways since that time and point. But this is going to be more that old school, not necessarily that West Coast where you have a real dry, sharp bitterness, citrus. This is going to be more of a malt forward, but well balanced with more of a piney, resiny, danky type characteristic to it. And 7.2 on this, so it is the burliest of our year-round releases.
It's kind of nutty to me on the palate, right? Like kind of almond, hazelnut, whatever kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's coming from that malt backbone on it, using a little bit of those, I don't want to say darker malts, but kind of those mid kind of caramel note type grains in there.
I think it'd be fun for this to do like an espresso rubbed ribeye or something where you kind of got that, maybe the coffee espresso notes going on.
Yeah.
And have this going on with it. I think would be a fun pairing.
I love this, bringing those wine pairing ideas and pairing it up with some beer. And, that is something that we do have on our sales sheets that I'm happy to share with you if it is something that you do for your folks who come in and do this beer club. But we do have some pairing options on there.
Yeah, I think it's fun because I think it's actually more variable to me in beer than it is in wine, because you guys get to add things like, if you wanted a peach or something, where, winemakers are kind of stuck with not stuck with, I mean, I don't want to denigrate wine, but, you guys get to do different things. And I think, you can taste this and think, if you're a foodie, what could I put with this? And I think it's fun to talk about those things. So, yeah, I think it's fun. Really nice. That's my favorite of this so far.
Yeah, you're liking this IPA.
Yeah, it doesn't feel so hoppy to me like some of those IPAs just slap your face around, right?
Right, and just another little tidbit about this. So with this being one of the first ones that we produced in 2008, starting in 2008, there was a bit of a nationwide hop shortage. So we were actually sourcing the original hops in this beer from South America, Argentina, which, they grow a ton of hops there, but they don't seem to have as much of a kind of robust hop characteristic like you find here in the United States, along in the Pacific Northwest, for example.
Cool. Yeah, maybe a chimichurri sauce with that would be awesome too.
Ooh, all right. I'm getting all kinds of ideas. I need to start writing this down, putting on our sales sheets.
And the last one is the pumpkin ale. I mean, there's 3 more. The last one we're going to taste and talk about is the pumpkin ale, which is good to talk about that since October is right around the corner.
This is the season for pumpkin ale. So this is a 7.7% ale that we use baby bear pumpkins, organic baby bear pumpkins that we actually get right down the street here at Munson Farms here in Boulder. And then we have our own custom spice blend that goes into this. So a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, small spice, put some vanilla bean in there. Overall, you know, there are some pumpkin ales out there that it's like, oh my God, it is so pumpkin spicy, or it's almost too pumpkin, which sounds kind of silly. It's a pumpkin ale, but this one I believe has a really great balance of getting all of those characteristics. I like nice pumpkin pie. It's kind of a way that I could describe this. And this actually has a bronze medal behind it from Great American Beer Festival. And we're very proud of this. And it is a short run. It is the only time of year, obviously, that we're releasing this particular style. And on this series, it's his own little series that we have.
It reminds me of an eggnog.
Eggnog?
Eggnog with a little brandy in it. It's kind of a spiked up eggnog to me.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. And I think dessert would be wonderful with this. A nice creme brulee.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Going, and then you put the spice of your beer in there. I think that'd be fun there. So, yeah.
When we used to make our brown ale as a year round, we don't make our brown ale anymore, unfortunately. For dark styles, predominantly in the state of Colorado, started to dwindle in overall sales. We were starting to add some new flavors, new styles of beer to our overall lineup. And then of course, our hard seltzer comes into the mix. So with brown ale, it was our most award-winning beer that we used to carry and used to have year round. And every so often they'll throw one in and make one. But we used to mix brown ale with this pumpkin ale. And it was a beautiful, beautiful blend of two beers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoy that. Lots of flavor. Like
lots of flavor.
I can really dream about what I would prepare as a meal or a dessert. I think it's gonna be more dessert for me if I was gonna prepare something. I think wine and food pairing has been gone on forever, and I think beer and food pairing needs to step up a little bit too, personally.
I agree. You're just telling me I need to step up my game on these pairings. I could have come at you with a ton of ideas on what we could pair these with.
Oh, you're good. It's fun. I mean, that's kind of what we are. You know, we're kind of a culinary restaurant, and then we have a couple of wine and beer stores. So we kind of approach things that way a little bit. Anyway, one of the questions I always like to ask, and I'm sure you watched other recordings, if you're not drinking your beer, what are you drinking?
If I'm not drinking my beer, what am I drinking?
Besides beer.
If I'm not drinking any beer, ooh, that's a tough one because lately I've been drinking pretty much nothing but beer. But I would probably venture to say that I am a rye whiskey guy. Little rye on the rocks, fantastic. I also am a traditionalist when it comes to an old fashioned, to an extent, because I do like to split it up and throw some rye whiskey in an old fashioned. Sazerac's always fantastic if I'm feeling a little squirrely. You know, I try to get into wine, and I enjoy my red wines, but I'm not on a level to where I should be buying anything more than like a $12 bottle of wine.
It's been fun for me too, because I've always been not always, but for a long time been a wine guy, and it's fun to. My daughter makes me do these interviews, and I said, I know nothing about beer, although I've learned a ton lately.
I bet.
But it's really fun to kind of experiment, get outside the box. I've been drinking wine for 30 years, and I'm back to drinking some beer here and there at least. So it's really been enjoyable talking to you. And thank you very much. Anything else to add before we sign off?
I don't think so. I think thank you very much for this opportunity. If ever any of your clientele makes their way down to Boulder, please let me know. If I'm around, I'm happy to show them around and entertain. Unfortunately, right now, Boulder, we are on a mask mandate. It's the only county in the state of Colorado that's on a mask mandate right now. So if you're inside, you got to wear a mask, and our tours are on pause at the moment. But as things kind of open up, would love to show anybody around, including yourself.
Cool. And if you're in Montana, and George's is your distributor, and if you're in Montana, the Missouri runs right between where they're at in Helena and Great Falls, and it's one of the best fly fishing venues in the world. So yeah, we can entertain you up here too. So once all this stuff goes away, or when it goes, hopefully it goes away, you're welcome up here, and I promise you, I'll do a really nice beer and food pairing with your beers. It's fun to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
All right, we're done recording. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it.